Welcome back to Fuqua Sports as we recap our Week 7 games, and boy, you're never going to see another week like this. Upsets galore, turning the entire league upside down. But first, if you're new, we're using our college mod on Access Football 2024 with updated rosters and playbooks. 80 teams are competing in the simulation, just like in the proposed Super League that has gained attention over the past year. And we are officially halfway through division play, and the teams are making preparations for their second half surge into playoff contention. Here is the division alignment that we're using, and you can view the entire pitch deck that talks about division of the Super League more in depth by clicking on the direct link in the description down below. It is also the same link that is typed out in the bottom of this graphic. 24 teams will make the playoffs, with the 8 division winners getting first round byes. More on that later. But without further ado, here are the scores from Week 7, and you can just tell from the number of upsets that we couldn't recognize only 3 games and that we had to double it to 6. To get an idea on how crazy this week was, all of the top 4 teams coming into this week in the South Division all lost. The 1st and 3rd place in the Southwest Division lost. 3rd place and 4th place lost in the Northeast Division. Heck, even in the Circuit Flex, the 2nd and 4th place teams lost. I just want to point out that we selected the YouTube games beforehand based on a combination of team records, rivalries, and popularity, which is why games like the Mississippi State-Georgia matchup didn't get picked in favor of the Alabama-LSU game. But to get an idea on how crazy this week was, along with all the upsets, 5 games were decided by 1 point, 3 of them having the same final score of 24-23. You still got to watch Louisville steamroll Ohio State in Ohio Stadium, LSU upset Alabama, and the Red River shootout headed into overtime, a dramatic game that saw Texas cough away a big lead. Georgia's had a rough go of things on this channel because if you recall, they were seeded first in my 130 team tournament a couple of years ago and lost to the worst seed Nevada. They also were the 1 seed in my March Madness football simulation earlier this year and lost to the 16th seeded Washington State. Now in this simulation, they lost to one of the worst projected teams in the SEC this year, Mississippi State. Looking over to the standings, only 7 teams remain undefeated. 7 teams are also still without a division win, and with all of the upsets, every division except the Northeast is wide open. In that division, 8 of the 10 teams are already at 2 losses, and Penn State has a head-to-head tiebreaker over Virginia Tech. But look at this, Alabama is sitting at 7th in the South Division after getting upset by LSU. Washington is also buried in the West Division. The Huskies were on bye this week, but they already suffered 3 early season losses not even halfway through the season. Last week I mentioned 4 surprise teams, Purdue, Washington State, SMU, and Kentucky. I might have jinxed them because 3 of them lost, and Purdue, who was on bye last week, has to play Michigan in the Big House this week. Still though, lots of parity up top, which is nice as it creates one hell of a hectic season. And here are the first college football playoff rankings that we've been awaiting for so long. I guarantee you that these rankings wouldn't have looked this way if they were released last week. Oregon opens at number 1, they averaged a 15-point winning margin in their 4 division games so far. It appears that the committee still views Georgia, Ohio State, and Tennessee as top 10 teams, so let's see how they'll do this week. And if you look at the graphic, Georgia and Tennessee has a monster of a matchup this week. Looking down the list, a set of widely agreed overrated teams in recent memory, Michigan, Texas, USC, and LSU come in next at 11 through 14. Some current day Big 12 schools wrap up the teens, and looking into the 20s, we see Boise State at 22. The Broncos are the only team from the Circuit Flex ranked. Is the committee judging the Circuit Flex too hardly? We do note that the level of competition is severely lower, but having only 1 team ranked from that division is obviously notable. It's definitely an intriguing set of rankings, and we'll see how it holds up in the coming weeks. Here's the schedule for Week 8, and you get 3 ranked games: Tennessee, Georgia, Ole Miss, LSU, and NC State, Florida State. Elsewhere, Louisville gets another shot at a college football blue blood. They went on the road to Ohio State and shocked the college football world last week, and we'll see if they can replicate that performance this week in the Big House. You can see what all of the ranked teams are up to this week. It should be a fun one, and that Tennessee-Georgia game would have been your main event this week had they not both have gone upset last week. Instead, that slot will go to the only other ranked matchup that we're showing on YouTube, NC State and Florida State. The Seminoles are still undefeated at 6-0, and NC State is coming off solid wins over Miami and UCF, before a bye week last week that got them extra time to rest and prepare for the daunting task ahead of them. It should be a great game as well as these other 6 games in this graphic. We're kicking off August in style, right? I'll catch you in the next week to recap Week 8, and we'll see how the college football playoff rankings change.